Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Happy Monday. Welcome aboard. Hope you had a great weekend and are ready for the start of the week. Doesn't really matter. We don't have a choice, right? We got to do it. Looking forward to talking to Bob Kravitz today, Zach Osterman, all kinds of things going on as the sports world continues to roll. One of the things we'll talk about is realignment for high school. It's not limited to just college. Hey, Bob, jumping on. Hey, Bob, and how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Great. Just talking about some things we'll be talking about today. Joe Smith, our good friend Joe Smith, is going into the Monroe County Hall of Fame this week.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good for him.
You're up at Colts camp. Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I'm going to be leaving in a few
about
minutes.
him.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
And now, poof, that's gone. High school football or high school, the realignment that's going on. I saw that in the Star that there may be some realignment in high school conferences.
Okay. Don't ask me too much about that.
I know. I don't even know about it. I'm just saying it's all kinds of crazy.
Okay.
That's
and the
craziness going on.
The Pacers draft was this past week too, so I got
the Pacers, and that's everyone seems to be happy with where they ended up. I mean,
they did well.
It seems like, and they did well. They made some moves. They look like they came out of that draft in really good position.
They did. We're on a break right now, correct?
No, we're on live.
Oh, well, never mind. Yeah, sorry. Yes, they did. They did really well. I think Chris Duarte is a 3-and-D guy. I think he's a guy who can defend the 1, the 2, the 3. He's athletic. He's not a good shooter. He's a great shooter. He is a guy who averaged 42%, I believe, from 3. He's just sorry. I keep getting all these texts come in. Everybody's trying to get a hold of me for some reason or another. Mostly to play golf. I think they want my money. But yeah, he's terrific, and he's a guy who's ready-made. He's a guy who's ready-made. He can step into that lineup and start playing immediately. The other kid, Isaiah Jackson, is going to take a while. He's definitely a project. He's very raw, but he's tall. He's got a 7'5" wingspan. He's a shot blocker. He's a rim runner, a lob threat. So I think he's something they need. It's just going to take a while before he figures it out.
Yeah, and look forward to the Pacers. They seem to have come out of that in really, really good shape. Like I said, I know that you're heading up to the Colts camp today. And, of course, all the news there has been about Carson Wentz because day 2, he goes down with a foot injury that we don't know much about right now. But that's football, I guess. But
I think it's karma, man. I think we went through almost 20 years. I have to check how many, between Peyton and Andrew, we went through how many decades of,
abridged play.
Yeah, I mean, God, Andrew started having problems towards the end there with his health, but you think about Peyton and how durable he was, and all those years where you just knew until 2011 that Peyton was going to be there, and since then, it's almost like this karmic revenge of some sort that they can't keep a quarterback healthy. And it's crazy because they got one of the best offensive lines going. So it has absolutely nothing to do with him getting hit. It's just weird things keep happening, like a guy feeling a twinge in his foot while he's throwing a football during training camp.
Yeah, and you look at someone like Michael Penix Jr. at Indiana, who got hurt again last year. He was just stepping out of bounds.
Right.
Teddy Bridgewater a few years ago. It's crazy, the non-contact injuries that can happen. But
those are the ones that scare you the most, too.
Yeah, you look at Teddy Bridgewater was out for the entire year.
Right,
just
exactly
nuts, craziness can happen. But so now the plans that the Colts have laid kind of gone awry. They've got to don't know what's going on with this injury, if it's going to be serious or not, but they have to look at other options too now. After going through all this to get to this point, now the season's starting and it's like it blew up.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, I felt even before camp began, and we had some indication from Chris Ballard that at some point he was going to go get a veteran backup quarterback. It was just a matter of, waiting to see who might become available on the free market, on the open market. Excuse my earplugs falling out here. And now, obviously, they had to do something. Now, whether Brett Hundley is the guy, if we were to find out, we don't know whether Hundley is just camp fodder or whether he's really the backup to Wentz, should Wentz be hurt and miss some time during the regular season. So I don't think that he is. I think that if Wentz is going to be out for a couple of games, I think they have to make a run at Nick Foles or somebody, or Gardner Minshew, and it's going to cost them. But if you want to make the playoffs and you need a backup quarterback to win a game or two, I'd rather have Gardner Minshew or Nick Foles rather than Hundley.
Yeah, and the plans because now you look at an entire season, and the Colts were expected to do well this year. Mm-hmm. A bad start is not what you want for your long-term season plans.
It's a tough schedule early on, Jim. So, if they don't have Carson, it's gonna be tough sledding.
What else is going on? I know you're heading up there to camp. What are you expecting up there today?
Well, it's Frank Reich's first day back after his COVID situation, and I'm expecting more of an update on Carson. I think by now they have more information that they can share. So we got that. I've got a really interesting piece for people who are old Colts fans. August 7th, I don't even know what date it is today, but August 7th, I have a piece on Eric Dickerson going.
That's a Saturday, I think.
Saturday. Oh, good. Nobody will read it on Saturday. But we're doing an NFL 100, like a countdown. And so we're doing features on the top 100 players. I've got Johnny Unitas as well. And, wow. Dickerson is a really fascinating guy. And I didn't even talk to Eric. He wouldn't talk to me. I guess he just doesn't talk to a lot of media people, but he's got a book coming out, and I talked to the author of the book, who gave me some great stuff, especially about his pretty sad days in Indianapolis. Got a Rick Carlisle piece going sometime soon after the free agency, and I'm doing a long piece on Chris Duarte, the first pick of the Indiana Pacers, and boy, what a fascinating story he is. I mean, he's a kid who came from the Dominican Republic, grew up on baseball, like every kid in the DR, throws 90-mile-per-hour fastball. He says he does. He says he can prove it. And so I'll have that coming out here shortly. And I apologize for not knowing we were on live. Thank goodness I didn't use any bad words.
Oh, we would have cut you out.
No
problems there. But yeah. Yeah, that sounds like some great stuff. All of that at The Athletic. If you're not a subscriber, you should be. I am. But yeah, looking forward to all of that and coming forward. And then as the week progresses, what are you going to be? You've got all that stuff coming out. What's the rest of your week looking like?
Some golf. No, I'll be going to Pacers. Colts camp a couple of times. I kind of play it by ear, Jim. You know me. Whatever kind of the big story of the day is, but I'll be plenty busy trying to get a hold of folks who knew Chris Duarte way back when. So that'll be a big piece here later in the week. And I'll keep myself busy. Maybe a little golf thrown in.
Absolutely. Should be, no doubt. So what do you think about the Colts, where they're going to be right now with this quarterback situation? How much does that really hurt them, help the team morale? I mean, because there was a lot of discussion about Wentz after they took him. So it wasn't everybody. It was not like a 100% on board thing to begin with. Now that plan has been blown. Like I said, it's a weird situation.
It's tough. Plus you got Darius Leonard. unless he comes back today. But up until now, he's been out. Not quite sure when he's expected back. You got a couple of guys on the COVID list, which is absolutely no surprise given the fact that the Colts are one of the 2 lowest vaccinated teams in the league. I think that's going to be an issue the entire season, honestly. And this camp is off to kind of a dubious start. But look, if they can get this guy back by regular season, it's not like he's a rookie. So, would it be nice for him to spend some quality time getting to know his teammates and working on getting reps and everything else? Yeah, absolutely. On the flip side, maybe if you're looking for a bright side, maybe this will give us a better chance to figure out what the hell they have in Jacob Eason.
Let's see, the women's soccer team, man, did they lose?
Did they lose?
I was looking that up. Someone said something on there, and I'm like, man, what happened with the women's soccer team? And I didn't get a chance to pull it up.
1-0 to Canada.
Oh, those damn Canadians.
Oh, Canada. Really?
I covered.
I didn't know Canada played soccer.
They are great at soccer. And in fact, one of the best games I've ever covered was a game in outside of London. I forget the name of the city we were in. Maybe Manchester or something. And it was like a 5-3 game or 4-3 or something. It was one of the greatest soccer games I've ever seen. And yeah, Canada is excellent, but they're not as good as we are usually.
No, and to get that upset, that's twice the women have lost already, right? So
right.
That knocked them out.
I don't know, but I blame Greg Popovich.
It's always his fault. He's just always involved in something, it seems like. He should have been coaching them and leading them to victory. But basketball, speaking of the Olympics, basketball is trying to make a turnaround after kind of looking bad.
Yeah, maybe when Middleton and Holiday get their legs under them, maybe they'll be better. But I don't like the construction of that team. I don't know. Look, they ought to win, but look, these national teams, and we've said this for a million years. I mean, they're catching up. They work out and practice together.
They're like a professional team because they're an organization almost. Well, they are an organization.
They are. I mean, they practice quite a bit together, and the Americans get together. They practice a couple of times, yada yada yada, and they go out and play basketball. And maybe in the old days, back in '92 when I covered them in Barcelona, that was enough. You beat them by 60, and then they'd ask you for your autograph. But that's not the way it is anymore. Now we've got Jokic's and Doncic's and people like that out there, and these guys are great NBA players.
Absolutely, and so many of them have that. You watch the Olympics now. You watch these countries, and it's countries that you would never have thought. Who was it? Daggone it! I think it was an African country that beat the U.S.
Yes, Nigeria.
Yes, Nigeria. Who in the world? Think about that. That just the mere sentence of saying that out loud, that Nigeria beat the USA in basketball, is preposterous. But if you look at that roster, you get a real quick sense of why.
Yeah, they're all NBA players. NBA players, every last one of them. And the funny thing is, I remember back in '92, they played Angola, and they beat them by about 82 points. And after the game, all the Angolan players came over to the Dream Team and asked them to sign autographs.
Yes.
It ain't that way no more.
No.
The world, and this is the work of David Stern, who internationalized basketball and made it a game for the world's game. And this is the monster they've created. Now they're beating our ass.
And doing so very well. In the swimming, of course, Indiana as a school has won one. I'm trying to find that.
I think they're fifth in the medals count.
In front of all the other countries.
Right. It's incredible.
With one diving event to go, the Hoosiers have collected 11 total medals, 4 gold, 5 silver, and 2 bronze as a university. IU athletes have produced 114 total medals.
Well, We need to sing a fight song out of. I mean, good heavens, that's incredible.
It really is.
It says a lot about their coaches. I've gotten to know Ray Luz over the years. The diving coach I do not know, but clearly they've got quite a great program. And Purdue too. I mean, for all those years with Soldati, Adam Soldati. They had David Budaya and Steele Johnson and folks like that, and they have another diver coming along. So no, it's great to watch all the local representation and the success that they're all having.
And just the people that are from the state of Indiana, that's been mind-boggling to me. The younger kids, the high school kids, it's just been like, wow, Olympics to compete on that level. And I don't want to go down the Simone Biles thing, but it's a lot more. It's a stage that you cannot comprehend if you're not on it. I don't think I can comprehend that stage because I've never been on it. I don't know how big it really is. I know it's big, but I can't imagine being a 17-year-old kid because I was a 17-year-old punk. I'm like, man, I can't imagine being at a thing like that where you're so much is expected of you, and they handle it so well.
It's weird that obviously they're performing in front of no fans, so that's quite a bit different. I was watching the 100 meters last night, and the run up to the 100 meters. And I kept thinking back to all the Olympics I've covered and the sound in the crowd heading up to, the anticipation, the excitement heading into those races. And you don't have that now. So it's a weird situation. I feel really bad for Irby, the sprinter from Indianapolis. She had quite an interesting race, but in the relay race. But yeah, when I was 17, I didn't know where my ass was located. I really didn't.
Who does? And to see those kids do that,
they're a different breed, man. I have great admiration for what they do. And the great thing about the Olympics to me, Jim, excuse me, is they basically train in obscurity for 3 years and 364 days a year. They have their tournaments and, the swim hardcore come out or the archery hardcore come out or whatever. But, they're preparing for one day on the big stage, one day. And that defines everything they do. And that's what makes the whole Biles thing so bizarre. Now, granted, she's already established. She's going to be, making millions of dollars as a professional and all, or already has. But it's exciting to see how people react on the biggest stage, and every single one of these people has an incredible origin story or an incredible background story, and they're great to tell. Excuse me as I cough.
It's all right. High school football practice starts today up in Indianapolis, so at least they're getting to start with some beautiful weather. Yeah. Man, when I think about when I was going through 2-a-days and all that stuff, the weather was not good. It sucked. It was hot. It was 90 degrees. It was humid. Of course, we were down in southern Indiana, closer to the river. But I think they're not going to get this for too long. The big weather comes in. So Indiana fall camp starts as well. So the college seasons are upon us. It's about to be here, man. Indiana
stuff to write about. I love it.
Indiana is 8 days away from going to the Bahamas.
That's right. Yeah,
that's only 8 days away.
I better make my travel. No, I guess it's not going to happen.
Man, I could have sent you over. Sending somebody over. I don't get to go. I didn't get to go either, so I didn't get my passport ready in time. But
you knucklehead.
Oh, I know. I was just too busy. But looking forward to that. I know you've got to run. You've got to get up to camp. You're going to. Yeah, you got to get to camp today. Got to go to camp today. All right, brother. Well, we'll talk to you again. Look forward to it. I can't thank you enough as always.
All right, buddy. Next time I'll know we're on live. Okay.
I got you. I'll make sure John you knows.
Okay.
The great Bob Kravitz joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat from The Athletic. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking. Yeah, John, you got to always tell them when they're going live.
Well,
So
he
they
wasn't
know.
supposed to be on here till 9:20 anyway. I thought he just changed.
I
his
know
mind.
that's why you can't just put them in. You got to like talk to them, ask them, say, hey, did you want to come on a little sooner? Because that threw me off too.
That's. I thought maybe you changed something. I didn't know. But yeah, it's fine. All good.
I
Haven't
hate
heard
that
from
though.
Bozich yet.
I wish he would have not done that though, because it's easier for me to do the first segment.
Yeah, because I kind of thought your plan was to take him.
It was
2 segments.
No, I was just going to do one, but I was going to do the first one myself. I can't believe they lost to freaking Canada, man.
And on the other side of things, the men's national team, they won the Gold Cup last night.
What Gold Cup?
They defeated well, it's not, I know you're thinking Olympics, but the Gold Cup is a CONCACAF tournament between the North American countries. They beat Mexico.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
1-0 in extra time.
Dude, that's major.
It is major.
I can't believe there's another event going on during the Olympics.
Well, that's the thing, too. They were saying that the U.S. men didn't even have all of their primary players. I don't know if the men's soccer team is in the Olympics or not, but I wouldn't think they would be playing in this Gold Cup unless you have 2 different strings going at it right now. I don't know. All right, I'm going to bring us in.
Night with a family, meeting for lunch, hanging with friends, or on the golf course, Sam's Restaurants has multiple locations and something for everyone. Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Monday. Got to head down today and see my good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry as soon as we get off here. Get that taken care of. Looking forward to talking to Zach Osterman today. Talk about some name, image, likeness stuff. But conference realignment, as that continues, it's quieted down, but that doesn't mean anything. I saw in the Star that there's even conference realignment talk for Indiana's high school top conferences, for the bigger ones. The MIC is probably the most well-known in the Indy area. 8-team league made up of Ben Davis, Carmel, Center Grove, Lawrence Central, Lawrence North, North Central, Pike, and Warren Central. It's a powerhouse. It is. Is it truly fair to have all those teams in a sectional? I don't believe so. I think you eliminate too many good teams in the beginning. It's not good for fans, especially in basketball. If you're going to have a single class, well, hell, you eliminate a bunch right off the bat right there. So I could agree with that. You can run down their list. 4 different mixed schools winning all 8 Class 6A football state championships since they added a 6th class in 2013. In 5 of those games, the runner-up was also from the MIC conference. So you've got, it's an 80-20 situation. Too much power in all in one conference, but it's not power. It's the fact that some of those schools are affected in the tournaments. In talking to the coaches, let me see. This has got to be a Kyle. Yeah, Kyle Nedrip. Well, and we'll look forward to having him on to talk about this on Wednesday. But he talked to the coaches, and let's see, where did I look? It's just talk right now. But where there's smoke, there's usually fire. I promise you, I remember a couple of years ago, Floyd Central, New Albany, Jeffersonville in basketball were all in the top 6, ranked in the top 6 in the state. They are all in the same sectional. Why do you want to eliminate great teams right off the bat? I never did agree with that. Pete says the men's team didn't qualify for the Olympics in 2020. That's why they're playing in the CONCACAF, at which they won gold, John informed me. So there is that. But that's why they're not playing. They stunk in the Olympics, but they apparently are superior in North America and beating Mexico to do it. That's Mexico, obviously a soccer stalwart over the years. I didn't know that event was even going on. It's hard to imagine that they have such an event during the Olympics. Are many of you watching the Olympics other than the IU athletes? I asked someone last night, and I've spent maybe the least amount of time ever watching the Olympics this time around. I'm not sure why that is, but it is the case. I used to really enjoy so many of the events, but I think a big part of it is because the time, everything that they're showing is from the day before. We already know what has happened. So there's that. Looking forward to a great week. Looking forward to talking to Zach Osterman here in a little bit. Football practice is a week away from starting. Plan on doing some shows from out at practice. So we can be there and be ready for that. I mentioned when Bob was on, Indiana men's basketball only 8 days away from heading to the Bahamas to get their season kind of jump started early. We'll have complete cover. The Hoosier.com, Indiana Rivals, will have complete coverage from the Bahamas for you. I wish I'd have had this set up sooner, and I'd have been doing the show from down there. But next time. There was too much going on and didn't get that set up. But looking forward to doing that. I mentioned high school football practice starting today in the state of Indiana. Joe Smith, our good friend of the show, part of the Indiana men's broadcasting team, IU broadcasting team, going into the Monroe County Hall of Fame this Friday. I'm going to look to have maybe get Joe on Friday then. Have him on Friday, or maybe have him co-host today. But looking forward to talking to Joe. They're one of the great voices of this state ever. And he is truly one of the greats. Indiana is lucky to have him. He's just one of those voices that you love to hear. If you hear high school sports, he's great at it. So that's always a thrill to have him on, and looking forward to that. What's the Big 12 going to do? Bob Bowlesby has accused ESPN of encouraging other conferences to pick apart their league. So Texas and Oklahoma can get out of it. We know that. But what's the Big 12 going to do now? They've lost Texas and Oklahoma. They're gone. The SEC is offered and accepted their entrance into the league. Right now, that's set for 2025, but that's going to change. That's just going to entail them buying some, just spending the money. But that's what Bob Bowlesby is complaining about to ESPN and has issued a cease and desist because they're trying to get some other teams to leave the conference as well. That destabilizes the conference. That will basically put a kaput to it and let them out of their contractual involvement. That will also let Texas and Oklahoma out of their contractual obligations to pay the $80 million to get out of there. So it's a big deal worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars is what that's about. Tom Medford from down in Louisville says, Joe has called my games in high school football. Old. Are you saying you're old or he's old? Tom originally from Bloomington. But yeah, he is. If you've been able to get your name called by Joe Smith over the years, that's a great one. RBL Sprint said he watched equestrian cross country yesterday. They had a fatality with a horse that went down, sadly. Yeah, that is sad. Very much so. I watched they had the, what do you call that for the men or for just the athletes for the cross country deal. They're going through water on the track. To me, that's so dumb. Make it sand. Just make it sand so you don't have to get slopping wet. Your shoes are sopping wet. I mean, if you're running outside through actual conditions, that would be one thing. And that's what I think they should do. Take that off of the track. Put it in the woods. Put some little water barriers there. But make it more exciting. Yeah, taking it off of the field and into the track, to me, has made that event not much fun.
Hey, Jim, speaking of the equestrian cross country, did you know that Bruce Springsteen's daughter is competing in it?
I did not.
Isn't that something?
I did not. It is. You should have bumped in with a little song and queued with that. Yeah, I did not. But not surprised. I mean, kids of wealthy people do wealthy things, and Olympic equestrian events are very, very expensive. Those horses are very, very high dollar. So yeah, not surprised, but very cool. How did she do? That's the big thing. Did she win? Did she do any good?
I'm pulling that up right now, taking a look. She's the youngest member of the U.S. team. That's something.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing. Maybe she hasn't competed yet. I'm not too sure. I'm not seeing what she had done.
Well, I haven't heard much more out of the Big 12 and Bob Bowlesby, so that's kind of that kind of quieted ESPN. But I'm sure that they're not scared. They've got so much power now, and that's another question. Does ESPN have? I know they do. ESPN has way too much power in college sports now. You know, it's been so long. It's been the NCAA, but now it's truly ESPN is who has the power. They're paying the bills. They're writing the checks. They already owned the SEC network. They owned the Texas network, I believe. So they own these networks. And it ties. It's great because it guarantees specific income, but it also ties you there. That's why I said earlier, you're not going to see Indiana on College Game Day. They're with Fox. Now, Fox will do their game day, which they're trying to build up. They're just behind ESPN substantially, I think. But you're not going to see Indiana on College Game Day unless it's a real special thing. Unless they're undefeated at home and Ohio State is undefeated at home, then maybe you might see that on game day. I think that's the only potential because of the ESPN Fox relationships with the schools. It's all about money. And then at night, if you'll watch Sports Center, you'll see certain games, especially the games that were on ESPN. The other ones do not get the love there. So We got to take a quick break. We got plenty more coming back. Zach Osterman's going to join us. Plenty to talk about. Back with it here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for a relaxed
If you want, you might be able to ask Todd Leary if he can come on for a segment. I haven't heard from Rick yet. I know you don't always have Todd on, and he's busy and stuff, but it's a suggestion. Has Charlie got more stuff going on with his program today?
Oh, he's traveling.
Gotcha.
His flight got canceled, and his schedule got all screwed up.
Gotcha. Jim, same thing. Because I know Rima.
Who?
Rick just said he can do 10. All right, I'll shoot him something. The link.
Huh.
All right, there you go. You got Rick joining in the following segment.
Perfect.
I'm going to bring it back.
Front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Monday. You know, there's a show that I have not been able to watch that I am going to start tonight. I have to write it down because if you could see this desk and all the Post-it notes everywhere. Everywhere, just notes constantly. Not that you care, but looking forward to talking to Rick Bozich in a little bit as well. But he wrote a piece for WDRB.com about Tom Allen, comparing him to Ted Lasso. I have not seen this show, and I've heard how great it is. I have not, and now I have the ability to watch it. I'd kind of forgotten about it, but the piece that Rick wrote on Tom Allen last week, comparing him to Ted Lasso, that actually it wasn't him that did it. It was a writer from The Athletic. Where was it? I just saw that. Oh man, I just saw the guy's name and I lost it. But he writes for The Athletic, and he just put that out. I'll have to find that later. But has anybody seen Ted Lasso? Does anybody watch that?
My wife has seen it, and she's trying to get me to watch it.
Well, why would you not?
I'm the kind of person, when I watch TV shows, I like to finish what I'm already watching.
Well, what are
before
you
I start
watching now
something
that's
new.
so important?
Nothing that's important, but that's just the way that my mind works.
Well, what are you watching?
Have you ever heard of a show called Community?
Yeah. This is about sport, but you've only got one room in your life for one show.
Normally at once, I don't. It's just like I said, it's the way that my brain.
And I
works.
usually had 5 shows going on at once.
See, how can you even keep track of all of that though? That's
DVR, baby, DVR. It's the only way. Oh,
Do
I
you
don't
use
ever watch
streaming services.
Yeah, I don't ever watch anything live. Hardly nothing do I see.
Well,
live.
I don't either. But I don't like
Unless
to have
it's
a
a
bunch of different
event.
things that I'm trying to keep up with. Is what I'm trying to say.
It's easy because you get to it at your own time.
And that's what I'm saying. Ted Lasso is on my, I guess, TV show bucket list. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
You only got one show you're watching.
The only reason my wife started watching is because her sister got her watching it first, and they were watching it together. So,
well, it's pretty popular. I've heard a lot of, especially in the sports world, it's pretty popular. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Plus, it's got one of the funniest guys that I know in the world. What's his name from Saturday Night Live? Star of the show.
I just know him from We're the Millers. I don't know what his name is.
Oh man, come on! You don't know him from Saturday Night Live?
I've never really been a big fan of Saturday Night Live.
Jason Sudeikis. Oh my God, he's one of the funniest dudes. He's hilarious.
There you go.
I mean, he's hilarious. He really is. But if you're not familiar with Ted Lasso, it's an American comedy by Jason Sudeikis, blah blah blah, based on a character of the same name whom Sudeikis first portrayed in a series of promos for NBC sports coverage of the Premier League. That's hilarious. The series premiered with the first 3 episodes on Apple TV in August of 2020, so it's brand new, and was renewed 5 days later for a second season of 12 episodes, which just premiered last week. So in October last year, it was renewed for a 3rd season. There you go. So Ted Lasso, a coach of college-level American football, is unexpectedly recruited to coach an English Premier League team, AFC Richmond, despite having no experience in association football. So he's a American football coach going to coach soccer, right? Which the series has drawn comparisons to the takeover of Chester City FC by American gridiron coach Terry Smith in 1999, who subsequently installed himself as first team manager. So there's that. I have to ask if Rick watches that. Very curious. Well, you left me.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were still talking to me with that. I thought you were just going back to the comments and stuff.
Let's see. Pete says Ted Lasso rocks. It's awesome and funny. Has a lot of sayings and all positive words, just like Alan.
I'm sure Scott Frost would be a big fan of him.
Come on, John. Take over your TV. Michael, Evansville Rights grad and state runner-up Drew Smith signed with Miami Heat Summer League. That's another kid. I don't know how he got out of the Evansville area not to an Indiana school. But, yeah, that's great whenever you see that. And thanks for joining us. Hit us up on YouTube Live if you'd like.
Also missed this up here. We got a former Michigan commit decommitted and is apparently predicted to choose IU now.
I did miss that. I took it off by mistake as well. Thank you, brother. We need to get RBO's first name. So I quit calling him RBO Sprint. But Devontae Miles.
Maybe he likes hiding his identity.
6'5", 295 defensive tackle decommits from Michigan, already an IU prediction. You've got the kid from Ole Miss that transferred up that I've heard is an absolute monster. I'm jacked for this football season. And I mean jacked to cover it. Because I think it's going to be an outstanding season to cover. It's always much more fun to cover a winner. Covering Indiana football for the last few years has been fun anyway, but I think this is going to ratchet it up. That does not just include winning a bowl game. That includes having a better regular season. We'll do the predictions as we get closer. We do that. I'm a part of the prediction staff and the Hoosier.com. We'll keep track of that. You know what? We're going to do a contest. It's not going to just be winning and losing. You have to make it substantial. But I think Indiana wins on the road at Iowa. I really do. I think they're going to win on the road at Michigan. Those two wins right there is going to make the difference in the season. Vegas has Indiana predicted at 8 wins. 8-4 on the season. And I've said all along, I think they go 9-3. And that could possibly be better. They could be 10-2. There's no team on the schedule that they can't beat. Said that over and over, and I'll continue to say that. But that doesn't matter. I mean, it's how the ball bounces. Stuff happens. Stuff happens during the season. Injuries happen during the season. Fumbles, bad calls, whatever the case may be. It's truly how the ball bounces is how the season ends up for Indiana. But I truly believe that they go to these two places, Iowa and Michigan, and win on the road. And that would be an achievement of substantial movement. Winning at Michigan would be the first time since 1967, but winning at Iowa is tougher because they're good. Michigan's not that good. But you're on a road environment where you have between 80 at Iowa and 110,000 people at Michigan. It makes it's so hard. Tim says Ohio State had a big decommit. RBO's even going to figure out how to just tell me what it is, and I'll know. I'll remember. Don't worry. And where you're from. I always like to know where people are from, because I've go through here and a lot. I know a lot of the majority of the audience is not able to listen live unless you're on radio. Listen to us on radio or listening to us live on Facebook or through one of the.
So Ohio State had Jaheim Singletary decommit. He was a top 15 overall prospect in the entire country. I think he was listed as maybe of their recruiting class. I think he was one of their 2 or 3 best recruits of the class.
What positions he play?
He is what is he? I think he's a corner, just off the top of my head, because I've seen his name before. But let me take a look real quick.
It's unusual to have such a high recruit decommit at a place like Ohio State. Usually when you get those guys in, they're in. Have to find out where he's from. But Indiana is becoming CBU, cornerback U. With the Mullins.
Yes, this Singletary, he's a cornerback out of Jacksonville, Florida.
Uh-oh.
4th best prospect in the state.
Uh-oh. You know who recruits Florida very well? You know who has recruited a ton of really good cornerbacks from Florida?
It's either Tom Allen or Ted Lasso.
It ain't Ted Lasso. He's in the Premier League now. So there you go, from Jacksonville. Huh. Well, that would be interesting. Can you imagine? Now, you want to talk about gigantic getting that kid? If an Indiana could get that kid, I don't know if they're reaching out to him or not, but I would be shocked if they're not.
I'm curious who's on his radar right now.
Well, we'll have to certainly find out soon. Who were his finalists in his offer? Pull up his rival's profile.
Yeah, that's what we'll do real quick.
How do you spell his first name? Jahim?
Jaheim, and then Singletary, and that's Tary. I've about got it pulled up right. Here we go. Jaheim Singletary. He's a number 5 guy on Rivals. Let me click on his profile here real quick. His top interests is showing Arizona State, Auburn. Actually, these are listed alphabetically, so there's no way in telling. But he's got a laundry list of offers. One of them not being Indiana currently, but that doesn't mean it can't change.
Yeah, Bo, let's see. Singletary is coming off of an unofficial visit to Miami, and the Hurricanes are considered Georgia's top competition at this time. So he's looking at Georgia and Miami is probably his. And then that would tell me that that's exactly where he's going to land out. So not worried about that anymore. Let's see. I got to get that back off. How did I get? Michael's, I already put that up. Daggone it. Throwing the comments up. Yeah, feel free to comment. If you're listening live on either through Facebook or YouTube Live, I know that most of you guys are on radio, but you can do so still at 812-239. I lost the number. Was it 269-6367? Haven't said it for so long. 812-269-6367. Feel free to hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline there as well. You can do with your comments, get through. Let us know a first name and where you're from. I love learning because I was going through this earlier, and it's Dwayne is in B-Town, Dwayne Blackford. Alan was listening from where? See, I remember seeing Tim just got back from Nolan Lake. He's down in New Albany. RBO's down in Somerset, Kentucky. And if you're not familiar, that is down close to the Tennessee line. Appreciate you listening and joining us. Let's see. Had a few others that I saw that I just learned. Wyatt, I don't know where you're from. You have to figure out I know where Tom is down in Louisville, but he is from Bloomington originally. My man Pete is from Frankfurt. He's a hot dog, but he's up in Minneapolis. No idea why. It's just ridiculously cold up there. There's no reason for someone to live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Why would you want to live in Minnesota if you had a choice in life? And it's nothing against Minnesota. It's beautiful, but it's too damn cold. It's like Canada. Why would you live in Canada if you don't have to? It's just too damn cold. I can't stand being cold. I've never never have gotten it. Another Mullen says he's locked in. Travell. I think there's no doubt that he's going to continue that tradition for Indiana as the brother of Taiwan Mullen. And for those of you listening, you probably know this. I've said it many before, but they have an older brother that's playing in the NFL, and their cousin is Lamar Jackson. So crazy athletics are run through that family. It's nuts. I'm trying to get this comment off the screen. There we go. Let's see. Looking forward to Rick Bozich joining us next. And then Zach Osterman's going to join us from the Star. Tons to talk about with those guys, as they always make the show fun. Zach is going to be joining us regularly, as a matter of fact, from the Indy Star from now on. Going to have him on weekly as we hit this season. We're getting closer and closer to football season. As a matter of fact, 33 days until football. We're a month out. It has been 33 years since Indiana beat Michigan. It had been 33 years since Indiana beat Michigan last season. IU won 30th. This is a St. Tom Allen tweet. You won 38-21. Penix had 3 TDs, 342 yards. Stevie Scott, 2 DT. Oh, that's just the stats. But yeah. But yeah, just that picture of that I'm looking at, Tom Allen jumping on those guys and Tywan Mullen holding him up. Those guys, they want more. That's why I'm excited about this season and looking forward to it. We'll get with Rick Bozich as soon as we come back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Hey, Rick.
What's going on, gentlemen?
I have a shirt that I've been holding for you.
Uh-oh.
Oh, somebody gave it to me, and I'm like, that ain't me, but I know someone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've been holding this, and I'm like, that's a Rick Bozich shirt right there.
I'll be at the Cincinnati game, I think.
Man, that'll be a good one. Yes, sir. I was confirming all that last night. Absolutely going to Iowa. I may go to Michigan just because I think that they'll win there and haven't done that since '67. Makes it bigger.
What are the other Penn States? Is that the next road game?
Penn State.
And Maryland is the other one for the Big Ten. Or there might be Purdue as well, obviously.
Well, there's got to be one other one too, right? No?
WKU's the non-con road game.
Oh, okay.
Which they never have non-con road games.
Unless they're Power 5 schools, usually.
Which they never have powers.
Happen. They got a Louisville series coming up in a couple years.
Yep. They play a Notre Dame.
Wake Forest? Don't they have Wake
Forest? They did Wake Forest a few years ago. And they also did Virginia.
Indiana plays. It also has Notre Dame on the schedule, and I am predicting that you will be retired when that game happens.
With like 2035?
Yes, it's forever from now. It's forever from now. I've never seen a game announced that far in advance.
I guess it's a recruiting coup. They didn't get any more football commitments over the weekend, did they?
No commitments.
There were a couple decommits, though, in the Big Ten that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I saw Ohio State lost a 5-star, their best recruit, right?
Yeah, cornerback kid that's from Florida. But is that the one that's
Singletary? Yeah, we talked about
the one
him.
That's looking at Georgia and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long way till December.
Yes, it is. You're not going to the Bahamas, I guess.
No, sir. You're going?
No, I'm sending someone.
Okay.
I didn't have my passport in time.
All right, we got 15 seconds.
Okay.
Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, joined now by Hall of Fame writer Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Rick, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing good, Jim. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining us as always. The sports world, of course, turning again with conference realignment craziness going on. The Texas-Oklahoma thing is now it's a reality. It's kind of a done deal. It's just now it's going to be how much sooner than 2025 do they actually join the SEC than 2025?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was next year, the 2023, I guess 22-23 season. But it definitely won't be 2025. You can look at they want out. They don't really want them in. It never works out great when people are doing things they don't really want to do, and they'll just find that the SEC has money. Texas and Oklahoma have money. They'll find a way to get the money to the rest of the Big 12 schools, and then the big question will be how the Big 12 can survive.
Yeah, you've got Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12, openly calling ESPN out for all the things that they've done, their involvements, and basically trying to dissolve the Big 12, which would alleviate Texas and Oklahoma of their payments. It would alleviate ESPN of their contractual obligations. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, and the life of a conference.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you how blindsided he was. I mean, he's a conference commissioner with as much. He might be the longest tenured conference commissioner, and he looks like he was either asleep or they did it. It's hard to believe in today's day when there aren't many secrets, but they did an unbelievable job of keeping this quiet from everybody and totally blindsided him. And he's of the 5, quote, Power 5 leagues, they look like they're definitely the most vulnerable one because they haven't done well in the college football playoff anyway, and they lost their 2 best programs. And they don't really have a football powerhouse left in the group. And we both know that football rules the way this thing is going to be reshaped. And if you don't have a program that people want to watch in football, it puts you in a bad position.
And then now what is the next move for the Big 12? I mean, I don't know. Are they going to file suit? What are they going to do? Because they're going to have to do something to stop, or their league is gone, because the AAC, who I thought the conference would have been to try to poach these other teams, but that's who Bowlesby was apparently talking about with ESPN. They have talked to some of the other members already. Right. And so now it's like, what's the next move with college sports? Is there going to be a lawsuit over this?
Yeah, you would think so, because we've seen it in the past when these kinds of things have gone down. But then at some point, quickly after that, it goes into survival mode of each of these individual schools are going to have to realize it's sort of a game of musical chairs, and we need to find a seat at a table that we can survive at. And sitting back in the Big 12 probably isn't the best strategy. And so I'm sure we've already heard of the teams at Iowa State and Kansas that have made overtures to the Big 10. We've heard about, some kind of alliance between the Big 12 schools and the Pac-12. And then we've heard the AC schools are interested in the 8 leftover schools. So it'll be a matter of the 8 remaining schools. At some point, it's like, yeah, we're in this together. But if I have a chair over there, see you later.
Yeah, because you've got too many big time players out there, like the Big 10. What do they do next? But before that, you've got looking at your piece. From WDRB.com, and I love anytime you can get a comment from Barry Switzer. It's always great. But talking about Switzer and better actually, Steve Spurrier. He's the one. But those guys and how I think they're like fans. They're like, but they don't see the wisdom, and I don't either. And Spurrier correctly pointed out, hell, they can't win the Big 12. What are they going to do in the SEC that is so much more dominant? I know that they're probably thinking that it's going to enhance their recruiting because Texas A&M's recruiting has been enhanced since they entered the SEC. And I guess that's the only thing because they've had their independence of sorts. They've been a conference member, but yet they have their own TV network, which is a rarity. I don't know. What are they really gaining by going over there?
I guess they're gaining the reflected strength of the SEC. Just be able to tell people you're in the SEC helps you puff out your chest a little bit more. It helps you in terms of recruiting. I think one of the big issues for Texas was that Texas A&M, who Texas had always sort of looked down upon, now can go in across the state of Texas and say, yeah, Texas has this, this, and this, but our facilities are just as good. We've got a coach who won a national championship in Jimbo Fisher, and you're going to play against Alabama, Auburn, and LSU every year in the best conference in the country. They had sort of gained an upper hand on Texas in terms of recruiting. And we've not only seen that. I mean, this year I think the two best quarterbacks in the state of Texas, one's going to Clemson and one's going to Ohio State. So I think they kind of fear that they need to come up with something to get the attention back, and what they're coming up with is playing the SEC. That it's easy to, I guess, to get there, but to win there is another story. And Saban's going to be there. I mean, look, Jimbo Fisher's been at A&M 3 or 4 years. He hasn't come close to really denting them. Orgeron had the big run again, got knocked way back on his heels last year. Gus Malzahn was a really good coach at Auburn. He got fired. I mean, you can go in there and have a pretty good team and have a mediocre record.
Brett Bielema back to the Big Ten.
Brett Bielema, he got bounced. We'll see what Lane Kiffin can do, and we're going to see what Mike Leach can do. But it's not a very forgiving league.
Not at all. And does this alone force college football to go to 12 teams in the playoff? I think it has to. I think it does already immediately. The SEC is not going to be happy with potentially only getting 2 teams, and even though that's a lot, because they're going to have so many teams that are they'll probably have 4 teams at all times in the top 10 at all times.
Right. Actually, I think it hurts the expansion of the playoff. I've read some stuff from the Pac-12 commissioner and a couple of other people saying that they kind of feel like they were misled, that the SEC knew they were going to this all along. And while they knew they were going to add Texas and Oklahoma, and so they're creating the 16-team conference, and the reason they want to go to a 12-team playoff is so they can get 4 or 5 teams in the playoff, and maybe they need to slow play this. And I've heard some other college people outside the SEC endorse that idea of saying, let's not rush into 12 yet.
Big Ten Commissioner Warren talked about Bowlesby being blindsided. There's no doubt that Kevin Warren was blindsided, because we were at Big Ten Media Days when this story broke, and you could tell there was no. And I can't blame Warren for not. If Bowlesby was blindsided, you can't blame Warren for being blindsided. But even if he hadn't have been, I don't know that there would have been a plan in place, because there didn't seem to be a lot of plans in place other than good touchy-feely talk from him this year. Not hard Big Ten typical, this is what we're going to do, and and this is the plan. He doesn't seem to ever have a plan. He seemed to be more reactionary than actionary.
Yeah, I think that's why we're in the situation we're in. If you look across the college football landscape, Greg Sankey's probably the shrewdest guy in the room. He's been on the job a little bit longer, was around Mike Slive even before, and then I knew how Mike Slive operated. Bowlesby is a bit of a older guy who I don't think really still has his fastball. And the other 3 leagues all have new commissioners. Warren's been in this, starting his 2nd year. Jim Phillips just starting at ACC. And the new guys just starting at the Pac-12. To me, it was a perfect time for a move like that, because you're dealing with some novice commissioners. And, it worked. There have been times in the past when people have raised the possibility of Texas coming to the Big Ten. I remember during the last round of realignment, I think people kind of poo-pooed it, saying Texas doesn't really have anything in common with Big Ten schools geographically. I mean, it's not a contiguous state to any Big Ten schools, but it does have the academic profile. But Commissioner Delaney didn't want to be that bold. Well, Craig Sankey was that bold, and now the SEC has created this monster.
And the other conferences, you talk about the Power 5. Well, the Power 5 is no more really power. There's no longer 5 Power 5 conferences.
Right.
They've lost their power. There's ACC they're a Power 5 in basketball,
right,
but not in football. And so there's such a distortion of power now in college athletics on different sports. But the ACC, what do? They absolutely just suck in football. I mean, they are terrible as a conference, but they have a champion, but then you've got nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the ACC has Clemson, and North Carolina is ascending. They're probably a top 15, maybe a top 10 team, but you don't really consider them a traditional football power. What the ACC needs to get its mojo back is for Florida State and Miami and Virginia Tech to become what they were 10 or 15 years ago. They really haven't done it for a while. I mean, think back to the great Hurricanes teams, or even the Bobby Bowden FSU teams, or the Mike Vick Virginia Tech teams. And they need Louisville to get back what they were a few years ago when Lamar Jackson was there. But the big problem the ACC has is they do have their network now. I think it's been online, 2 years, the ACC network? But the amount of revenue they're getting from their league compared to what the SEC and the Big Ten is getting from its network is maybe half. And it's a long contract, and everybody talks about it. Whenever you read Pete Thamel or 40 or these guys writing about the national college football scene, they always talk about the ACC's terrible television contract, and they're stuck with it for like a decade unless they find some way to merge or enhance their league.
And there's been talk about, for the Big Ten, you look at there's been a USC, UCLA chatter because of the LA market, but then that destroys relationships between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. But I don't know that matters anymore. Relationships are kind of going out the door. Does somebody from the ACC bolt? Does somebody from the Pac-12 bolt? Because the Big Ten does offer a big golden parachute. They've got the golden ticket if you join.
Yeah, I'm so much of a traditionalist. I really have a hard time seeing those teams in the Big Ten. And, even the football thing of it, that's just one trip every other year, or I guess one a year if you're going to UCLA and USC and you rotate it. But, I mean, people totally discount and forget this affects other sports. I mean, are UCLA and USC going to want to come play? They got really good baseball programs and softball programs. Are they going to want to come play softball games in March at Wisconsin or Michigan or wherever? Or, it affects, the travel costs. And as basketball fans, you look at Indiana fans travel quite well. I mean, playing a regular season basketball game at USC or UCLA, I guess there's alums out there who go to the game. It's just that I can see where it makes sense for one football game, but when you throw in all the other sports, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I think I've said this, for the other sports, for that to work, you would have to do like they do in high schools a lot. Bring in 4 teams or 6 teams at once and have a weekend deal where you're just playing 3 teams or whatever it is, and eliminate such a ton of travel costs that way. We saw them do that during COVID a lot. And I was actually, I'm like, that's actually smart, because that's what they should be doing for those sports, because they just cost money. They don't generate anything. So why not do what you can to save money on those sports anyway?
Right. Well,
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Mold. I think back, high school, college, whatever, we're breaking the mold on conferences. And to me, a couple of the things that conferences are really meant to create are rivalries and traditions and proximity to, the team you're playing, where fans can kind of go to a road game. They know about the opposing team and stuff. I just have a hard time seeing what the attraction is other than TV inventory of a Purdue UCLA or a Rutgers USC or an IU, Washington football game. That's not, in the traditional sense of the word at all, a conference rivalry.
Nope, I agree. And certainly want to see the ones that have been missing get back, like IU, Purdue basketball and all that. But more importantly, Jennifer from down in Evansville says Monroe County expected to go back to masks for everyone. How do you think this will affect the football season, as Indiana was hoping to draw in fans like they had not before? They're expected to require masks indoors for everyone this week. Should be a joyful basketball season. So there's that, as that Delta variant continues to go forward and surge a little bit. But I hope it's not going to affect fan participation as far as being able to come. But there's definitely numbers rising.
Yeah, there are, especially in there, from what I've read, of people that have not been vaccinated. And I don't want to turn this into a political discussion, but what you read, it seems to be people that don't get vaccinated are certainly more vulnerable to catching the Delta variant. I've noticed at some baseball games I've been watching more fans wearing their masks again inside the stadium. I mean, I think majority of people would be fine with wearing their mask in a stadium if they meant, if it meant they got to go to the game. I don't think you'd see a huge pushback against that. But after, it's going to be harder to live with this year. Last year, I think there was more of a genuine feeling of community sacrifice. You're doing this because everybody else is doing it. But then when it kind of went away and people got their hopes up of getting something back that they really missed last season, to tell them this year that they can't go to the games would be hard. And financially, it'd be even harder. So I think they're going to find every way possible to get people in.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And yeah, I if you're not vaccinated, unless there's a medical reason for it, I don't get it. But yeah, I'm not going to go political either, but it is what it is. And facts are the facts. Get vaccinated, be able to enjoy life, let everyone else enjoy life, hopefully, but because it's affecting communities. It's, we can't go back to where not forget about the sports, the towns, the businesses, the restaurants, all that stuff, man. It just affects everything. So I'm tired of it. Everyone has to be tired of it. So, but it will suck having to do that in Assembly Hall. I'll tell you that, or any of those places.
Well,
like
it's interesting. We got an email, I think over the weekend, from the University of Louisville about scheduling of their football media day. And in the email, it basically says, you can come to it if you've been vaccinated. And I know that Wake Forest, and I think might be Notre Dame. I've read 2 schools that have put out things that you can't be credentialed and attend games unless you prove you've been vaccinated. If otherwise, you have to do it the way we did it last year on Zoom. So I'm fine with that. I've got my shots, and I want to have that feeling of going into a place that other people have the same seriousness about the virus that I do.
Yeah, James Smith says people with a shot still getting the virus. Yes, but it's not sending people or killing people, sending people to the emergency room or killing them. And so it's definitely.
I've gotten the flu shot and gotten the flu a few years, but it's not usually as bad as it is if you don't have the flu shot.
Absolutely, Rick. I know you got to run, but I can't thank you enough. And let's see, we got Indiana football media day coming up. I think that's Friday.
First practice. I've seen it. When does the basketball team start practicing this week, or?
Yeah, I don't know if I have seen the official date or not, but I believe you're correct on that as well. But it'd be nice if we could get into that like the old days.
You need to. Someone's going to have to smuggle some bootleg video out of the Bahamas, like those old concerts from the 60s and 70s, when before everybody had a cell phone, somebody would have a bootleg video of a concert or whatever. Whoever bootlegs a video out of the Bahamas is going to do pretty well.
Yeah, they're allowing 2 minutes for media. You're allowed 2 minutes of video per game. So there's that. But yeah, we'll try to get that done. Well, Rick, go out and have a great week, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. You bet. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Give him a follow if you don't, because he has great coverage for all things in sports in general. He's a Hall of Fame writer. Actually, an IU grad, if you don't know that. But as well, he was around in the 76 era. So look forward to Zach Osterman joining us next. We're back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for a
I gotta go to the dentist today.
Is it a follow-up for the tooth stuff that you had?
Yeah. These are just temps. Man, I meant to put this one up. Where was?
I was talking about the Quinn Ewers thing.
No.
Say, Ohio State's top recruit for this year is thinking about enrolling early. I was just reading about quarterback. It's the guy we were talking about with Josh Hoover, as a matter of fact, if you remember that. But
hey, all right. Man, I won't remember that. They're getting too many for me to remember. Wish I had a way to.
Here's Zach.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, sorry about that.
Sorry, brother. How are you?
Good. Jack's daycare is closed because the school year technically starts Wednesday for them. So we've had to move some things around. And my mother-in-law was just a little late picking them up. So sorry.
I get it, brother. I get it. Trust me.
Do you have video today at all, Zach, or are you going to be without video?
No, my computer is a work computer, and sometimes the camera just craps out for no reason. So
I gotcha.
It would work if I restarted, but I assume we don't want to take that time. So
you're good. You're fine.
You can throw a picture up if you want, John.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's why I asked him.
Like he's calling in from Beirut. What's new with you, Zach?
Nothing, just getting set up in the new house, new office. I mean, just
we're not because YouTube Live people can hear us, but where are you in Bloomington?
Down off Fairfax Road. So
shit, you're by me.
Not that far. We've talked about this before.
I know. Oh, we have.
Not all the way out to the lake. More like near the Speedway, essentially. So
gotcha.
Still very much kind of within the sphere of Bloomington, but
so you got to hear the races last Friday, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we can hear it. We hear it every time they're live. Though I know last Friday was a little bit bigger of a deal than normal.
All right, I'm bringing us back in. Got 10 seconds.
$270 a month. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Monday, August 2nd. We're into August. Man, can't believe it, but that means we are closer and closer to football. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us now. Zach, how are you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing fine. Coming off the weekend. Not a ton happened, which was great. It's just a little relaxing, but we're about there for everything. Indiana basketball is 8 days away from going to the Bahamas. Indiana football starts practice on Friday. It's here.
It is. It sneaks up on you, but I mean, it's been a little cooler lately, which has made it feel more like fall.
September. Absolutely. It's been wonderful. The weather has. It's going to pick back up just in time for them to start football practice, though, I've seen. So that gets going next week. Everybody is healthy for Indiana right now, including Michael Penix. And that's a great thing. Of course, the health of a football team is the most critical aspect because every year, no matter what team, you're going to have injuries. Who that is and how they respond to that is going to be gigantic, especially for a team like Indiana who has great expectations on this season, maybe the greatest in the program history.
I mean, I think probably I more than most have been tempering some of those expectations just in terms of saying, if Indiana's not competing with Ohio State for a Big Ten title, that's okay. That what's important right now for Indiana is just sort of building on the positive momentum of these last few seasons, another winning season, maybe knock off that bowl losing streak. Just another season kind of spent shoring up the perception that Indiana as a football program has raised its floor. That said, the one world where I see Indiana in the sort of 9-3, 10-2, a genuine challenger to Ohio State in the East, because I would be fairly surprised, having admittedly not examined Ohio State's schedule hyper closely. I would be a little bit surprised if this was a 12-0 Ohio State team. I think it could be an 11-1 Ohio State team that won the East. But I would be surprised if this Ohio State team is quite as dominant as the one we saw a season ago, which obviously wasn't 12-0, but, same idea. You get my point. The only world, or the world where I see Indiana genuinely kind of, let's say, in the mix for the East, in early November, first, second weekend in November, is if Michael Penix is healthy, if Michael Penix has stayed healthy all season, and if Michael Penix has really maximized his talents, because for me, he's the best. He is certainly the best quarterback in the conference when he's healthy. There's an argument that he's the best offensive player in the conference when he's healthy. I also suspect that Indiana's offense was a little bit more hamstrung by all of the COVID protocols and hurdles and obstacles and just almost just sort of the environment that everybody had to live in during COVID last year. But I think that if Michael Penix can stay healthy, stay upright, and play a full season or anything resembling a full season, I think that's a world where we're talking about Indiana at, like I said, at 9-3 or maybe at 10-2.
And I agree exactly with that. Exactly. And I agree with you on Ohio State, because especially with quarterback, we don't know where they are at quarterback. They don't have the same cachet they've had at that spot coming back, but we don't know what they have. They always have their positions are 3 deep, so they have not had a problem producing a good quarterback year after year after year after year. But that's a little bit of a question mark for them this year. They're not, like you said, they're not quite as strong at all the positions, although they do have great skill positions, Olave and guys like that. But the quarterback is where it comes down to, and if we don't know what Ohio State is like there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think quarterback's definitely part of it. I mean, listen, Ohio State kind of has this rhythm that Alabama has, that Clemson has, that to some extent Oklahoma has, wherein the overall level of talent is just so high that even as they cycle through, 6, 7, 8 NFL departures a year, the guys coming up behind them are just as good, and maybe it's, maybe your strength shifts from one position to another on your offense or your defense, but overall the level of talent remains so high that you're still kind of, head and shoulders above the rest of the conference. And I think Ohio State still is. I want to be clear. I don't think anybody's closed that talent gap in a tangible way, just in terms of raw ability. But, losing Justin Fields in particular, at this moment in time anyway, maybe not looking like you've got that lockdown corner that we've expected Ohio State to have. I mean, like last season, it was kind of supposed to be Shaun Wade, and quite frankly, it wasn't. And there's a reason why Shaun Wade fell in the draft from being a player that some people thought would be top 15, top 20. I don't even think he was picked in the first 2 days. I could be wrong about that. I'd have to go back and look. But I just think that there's going to be there's the potential for a little bit more of a talent drop off. I mean, Trey Sermon, I think Master Teague is a fine running back, but I thought Ohio State had a different dimension once Trey Sermon really got comfortable and turned it on in that offense. And I think that the capacity is there for Ohio State to take more of a step back, in part because of what we're not sure they have based on what they didn't have last season. Although, again, if my counterpart covering Ohio State were sitting here, they might also be talking about the impact of COVID and things like that. But then also in part because, for example, when you lose a player like Justin Fields, you don't just automatically replace that player most of the time. You don't just sort of snap your fingers and have the next guy just waiting in your program. I think that it's possible Ohio State does take a tangible step back. That doesn't, again, to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that Ohio State is suddenly going to come back to the pack. I think they're still probably head and shoulders the best team in the conference. But if there is a little bit more weakness there, if there's a little bit more of kind of an opening for somebody to come up and challenge, and Michael Penix stays healthy, I do believe that's the world where it could be Indiana.
And the fact that they get Ohio State at home this year, is showing how well they played on the road last year, even though it was fanless. That bodes well for Indiana. If they're playing well by that, because that's a 6th game of the year, I think. So they should be well into, if Michael Penix is healthy, they should be on a roll at that point. That should be one of the biggest games in the country. Indiana will have had a tough schedule leading up to that, going to Iowa playing at home against Cincinnati. But if somehow they manage to get through that unscathed, that would be a gigantic, probably the biggest game in Indiana football history, minus maybe the Rose Bowl.
I mean, it's possible. I think the trick with Indiana, and I was saying this to a couple of people at Media Day, I guess like a week and a half ago now or whatever it was. I mean, there's a world where you look at the first 5 games on Indiana's schedule: at Iowa, Idaho, Cincinnati, at Western Kentucky, which Indiana's really got to stop scheduling games like that, and that's a separate conversation. But and then at Penn State, I mean, Indiana could play well in that stretch, like genuinely well, and be 2-3 or 3-2. And then you get Michigan State at home. That's a game that I think everyone should expect Indiana to be pretty heavily favored in. But I mean, there's a world where, not because they're bad, but simply because the first part of the schedule has been so challenging, Indiana's 3-3 when Ohio State shows up. And then maybe it doesn't quite have that vibe. But having said that, if Indiana could pull off an upset at Iowa, could beat Cincinnati at home, maybe you lose to Penn State but beat Michigan State, then there's a world where I think that is probably that's a contender for game day. That's there's a world where we're talking about that as you said, one of the biggest games in the country on that weekend. And that, I guess it's also worth saying too, without wanting to get too deep into Ohio State, that some of this is also down to Ohio State. I mean, they open at Minnesota, they host Oregon. But then the rest of their schedule building up to that, if they can get through those first 2 games unscathed, maybe a tricky game to start the season at Minnesota, and then the visit from Oregon on September 11th, they should win the next 4 fairly easily. So, it is kind of down to Indiana to decide whether or not that game's going to get top billing the way that I think certainly people are understandably hoping.
Yeah, and I understand. I kept forgetting that Penn State is before that game. So, and that makes a tough difference because you go on the road to a place that will have tons of fans in it. Although Indiana showed 2 years ago, they can handle that situation. They played competitively at Penn State. So, but that's a tough road to hoe. I don't care who you are. I mean, that's as tough a schedule as anybody in the country has when you start out on the road. And what's the deal with them starting out on these conference games on the road? At Big Ten Media Day, I heard Kirk Ferentz say, well, this is the first time since 1979 or whatever, they've opened up with a conference opponent, and it was Indiana then. Indiana's done it a couple of times in the last few seasons and have a couple of more coming. Why? That does not seem a very good scheduling move for the Big Ten, I wouldn't think.
That Iowa game is actually a pretty famous one, the 1979. That was the season IU went to the Holiday Bowl, and if I'm remembering right, they were up big at halftime, and Iowa came all the way back, and either Indiana was up big or Indiana was down big. And I'm literally pulling up my story while we talk. I mean, I think the thing about, certainly basically the reason that the Big Ten has done this, has moved in this direction, is just to put more appealing games at the front end of the schedule. That's for TV partners. It's for fans. It's obviously mirroring something that the ACC and to some extent anyway, the SEC have been doing for a long time. Like it's not new from a sort of college football wide perspective. It's relatively new. When IU hosted Ohio State to open the season in 2017, I think that was, if I'm remembering rightly, that was the first season the Big Ten allowed games to be played that early. So it was again a move designed to just put some more appealing games up at the front end. But you're right. Indiana's kind of caught Ohio State, and now a trip to Iowa. And as I'm reading this, yes, Iowa lost 3 in a row to IU going into the game. They were up 26-3 at halftime, and Indiana came all the way back. And there's a famous picture of Indiana had a running back named Lonnie Johnson, who I think there's like a famous picture of him running past he ran a wheel route up the sideline, caught a pass from Tim Clifford, and there's a famous picture of him running into the end zone, and the Iowa defensive back chasing him is Bob Stoops.
No way.
Keep in mind, I mean, this was Hayden Fry, Iowa, and if you're talking about Iowa around that time, I'd have to go back and look at what their whole staff is, but like Barry Alvarez was on his staff back then. Bill Snyder was on his staff back then. This is Hayden Fry again. Dan McCarney was on his staff back then. So, that was kind of the early day, not the early days of Hayden Fry, but that was kind of right at the beginning of Iowa becoming under Fry, and then obviously Ferentz, a really consistent Big Ten program. And I remember doing a story talking to those guys from the '79 team about that season and that game, and there was very much a sense that game kind of springboarded Indiana into that season, which obviously ended them with their first bowl win ever.
I'm trying to look up Lonnie Johnson. I think he had a son that ended up going to Kentucky or something, maybe.
He might have. I'm not sure.
Larry Johnson Jr.
You think about where that team is. I mean, they hosted their 40th anniversary 2 years ago. So, I mean, that's that's how long ago that is. But that was obviously Corso's first bowl team. And Tim Clifford was Big Ten MVP that year. They beat BYU in the Holiday Bowl. And that was a BYU team that was ranked in the top 10. So
Lonnie Johnson Jr. is a safety for the Houston Texans.
There you go.
He played college football at Kentucky. And I'm pretty sure that, he's the son of the Lonnie Johnson we're talking about.
There it is.
That's kind of crazy. Wow. So there you go. But great stories. Bob Stoops was at Big Ten Media Days. He's taken over for Urban Meyer on the Fox broadcast. Urban Meyer's position there. So he was at Big Ten Media Days walking around just chilling.
Yeah, I think I saw him in deep conversation with Barry Alvarez for about 10, 15 minutes. Would be fascinated to know what they were discussing.
Commissioner, speaking to the commissioner?
No, I don't think it was anything quite that. But, you never know. You're talking about two of the more recognizable and respected men in college football. So.
And it's great now that the Big Ten has that going because we talked earlier in the deal about them taking a hit on this. And hiring Barry Alvarez, that's as much of a PR thing, but they need his since he's been an AD and been in the league, I guess that helps a ton. But I think they have to go back to a consultant or someone more Delaney-like. Jim Delaney did such a fantastic job running the Big Ten Conference and putting them out in front of everybody where they were the leaders and not chasing. And it's kind of where that's heading back to. But what does the Big Ten need to do from here out?
I mean, I know that there's been a lot of suggestions among, members of the press who I would respect and trust that the Big Ten is sort of briefing that it doesn't necessarily feel like it needs to expand. It is kind of hard to imagine a world where the SEC goes to 16 with those two teams specifically. I believe the SEC's media rights or television deal, more specifically, comes up the same year that the Big Ten's does. And if we're going to a 12-team playoff without any sort of cap on how many teams from one conference should be in the playoff, and I don't really necessarily think that there should be a cap of any kind like that, I don't see a world where the Big Ten can't try to match that because I think when you're looking at, already if you are the Big Ten, when you're talking about, fighting for eyeballs, the SEC is now moving ahead of you with two of these huge college football brands. When you're talking about things that sort of establish prestige and bring money annually into the conference and are the sorts of things that are headline discussion pieces in any sort of negotiation of television rights, media rights, advertising revenue, whatever, like the college football playoff, it's already a little bit kind of Ohio State versus Alabama +1 in sort of Big Ten SEC parlance. If you go to a 12-team playoff and the Big Ten stands pat, then I think you risk it becoming sort of Ohio State +1 against Alabama plus maybe 3. And you really start to kind of fall behind. And I think that the Big Ten has the power, the clout, the history, all that to make this sort of at least a Big 2 in terms of the most powerful conferences. Some people would argue it already is or was before the SEC's move. I just don't see a world where the Big Ten can match that and doesn't move to match that somehow and can stay competitive in all the same ways.
Football camp opening up this Friday for Indiana. Looking forward to that. Getting to speak with Tom Allen, Michael Penix Jr., Marcelino Ball, Nick Sheridan, DC Warren, and Casey Teagarden. So all of that getting started, kicking that off this Friday, and looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of that time of year. I think we'll be able to get back in there now and watch the practices, and so there'll be a firmer sense of kind of where they are and how things are moving and progressing. But as you know, I mean, so much of what kind of happens in camp at this time of year is just lip service until you can see a solid week or two of guys in pads and hitting and moving around. A lot of it's just kind of conceptual. But Indiana obviously got a pretty full spring. They didn't play a spring game, but they got a fairly full spring. And so I think it is going to feel, I suspect, for them just a lot more normal. And, the other thing, too, that we heard from Tom Allen was that 90%, and my understanding is well over 90%, of Indiana's roster had been vaccinated by media days. And, again, that was a week and a half ago. So, any changes since then would only be, I suppose, for the better. And I think that, that's going to be a real advantage, too, in terms of guys not having to get tested, not being involved in contact tracing, and so on and so forth. And that's just going to keep everybody more sort of streamlined in terms of no interruptions, being able to rely on guys being there every day and that sort of thing.
Yep, and I'm looking for – hopefully we continue throughout the season to get to do these things live face-to-face as we are for some of the time. But I just hope that everything continues going forward and we just keep getting to go to games and the fans get to go to games and we have a fun season. But I'm looking forward to kicking it off and getting it going this week.
Should be fun.
What do you have scheduled, Zach? What's up next for you at the Indy Star? What do you have coming out?
I think, for us, it's really just building up to camp. I mean, as you said, all the business is kind of at the end of the week. And just in terms of kind of when stuff's going to happen and when things are kind of going to move, I think we're going to see a lot more kind of at the end of the week. I suspect we'll get something from basketball just starting to kind of advance their run to the Bahamas. But we are kind of in the last true days of summer here in Bloomington.
Absolutely. A basketball, getting ahead to the Bahamas, as we said. That's kind of I'm equating that to what we used to have, the secret scrimmages that weren't really all that secret. This is kind of what that is because it's kind of an exclusive deal. It's an expensive thing, so there's not going to be a ton of people there. It's in a small ballroom. No TV, no radio. It's as if they definitely want to see what they have before the rest of the world does.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an element of sort of competitive advantage in just sort of saying, there's no reason to put tape out there for people to see until they can't prevent it anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if there is an element of just sort of like, hey, this is just going to be, these two games are just going to be for us essentially. And then we being IU basketball, not you and me, but these two games will just be kind of for internal digestion because I'm sure Indiana will have film in some form, and everything else, will kind of wait. Everybody else will have to wait to see them on the on what, probably early November when they play exhibitions.
I just saw from our friend RBO Sprint that the number 1 Ohio State quarterback commit from Texas is now planning on being at Ohio State next month for this season, giving up his senior season. I don't know if this is the kid I heard about, but another one that was doing so in order to sign an NIL deal.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of that. His name's Quinn Ewers, and there's been kind of a lot of talk of basically, how many kids are maybe going to start doing this if their states don't allow it. And some states are moving to allow NIL deals for high school athletes. I think that's probably not going to be quite such a big, sort of money driver as college for obvious reasons. But there is just kind of going to be, it's all kind of going to be forced in this direction, because you are going to have more kids who say, well, even if maybe he doesn't play in the fall, and who knows if he will or not, he can still, there's a lot more value to him maybe graduating early, getting out of college year, getting out of high school year early and starting his college career competitively and also now financially. So I think until you see more states moving to add some of this as well, you're probably going to see a few more. You're probably going to see a few more, I would suspect, elite players doing this in the not very distant future. It won't be a large number. We're not talking about dozens and dozens. It's going to be the ones that have. It's going to be the ones that have, genuine sort of like immediate appeal, which obviously not a ton of people are going to have. But it is something that states are going to have to move on if they don't want, more of this to happen.
Chris hit us up, says Quinn Ewers might be ranked number 1, but Drew Alar is the best QB in the class. Look at his tape, best at throwing platform mobility. He is a young Mahomes. My favorite quote from him, though, is even with the decommit, their ranking dropped to number 1. So, yeah, there you go. Zach, I know you got to get running, man. Take care of the little man today, and I hope you have fun. Looking forward to talking to you more as the seasons have begun, or about to begin, rather.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always.
Oh, and for one last thing, we were talking about this earlier, and then because I know Zach's a gigantic soccer fan. Ted Lasso. I have not gotten to start that yet, but we were talking about it earlier. And I remember last year, maybe we were on the press room hearing you guys talk about it or some ways. But have you watched Ted Lasso?
I love Ted Lasso. I think it's great. Strongly recommended.
There you go. That's all you need. It's on. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us. Make sure you give him a follow. If you don't, appreciate you. Zach, have a great day, brother.
Thanks, Jim. Good talking to you.
You bet you. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. I love when I stress about the shows. They end up being great.
Maybe that's the key.
Oh, if we did this at 10, it would probably be a lot bigger.
You're saying because more people would be up and watching? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's see. Chris. Thank you, Ryan. I had to hit that up there. Got to meet Ryan over the weekend, played golf with him.
Oh, yeah?
And Sherry. He came down, visited. Yeah, we got to get the call-in thing going, man.
Yep, I'm going to work on that this week, too. That's another thing on my to-do list.
It shouldn't be.
Especially for Fridays. Well, we can do it the way that I think we can do it, but we need to test it again because when we did it with Dick Vitale, you all could hear him, but he couldn't hear you.
Okay. I bet what you need is called a Behringer box.
Okay.
And because you feed the sound in to the Behringer box.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows it to go into, yeah. You need a 2 receptacle Behringer box. Or Focusrite.
You'll have about 5 minutes left when we come back. Look at this.
Yeah, I know. Well, Darren, they're also adding Paul Feinbaum, who's another SEC head. We're moving
Just what
to
Indiana needs, more Indiana or more SEC sports talk.
We're moving to 1 o'clock there, Darren, on the
Right here we got 5 seconds.
In the art
wrap.
of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Monday, getting the week rolling. I hope you had a great weekend, ready to get started. What a great day it's been already. Bob Kravitz, Zach Osterman with us. Hey, if you listen to us on the Ref in Evansville, 97.7, we're moving to 1 p.m. there, so it'll be 1 to 3 on in Evansville. I think that starts next week, maybe. I forget, but that's going on there. Everywhere else, of course, nothing changes. Chris talking about Ted Lasso is must-see TV. If you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out. The best show at this time, and you don't have to like soccer. Oh, I'm guaranteed Jason Sudeikis is just funny. This has been a commercial for Ted Lasso today, man. Quentin Nelson just got hurt, taken to the medical tent. Nice start for the Colts. Yeah, Colts practice going on. I want to get up there and do a show. I've got so much going on. I'm moving. I got to move during all this. My daughter's is going off to college in the next 2 weeks. We've got the start of IU football within this 2 weeks. I want to get up, do some shows from IU practice. I was wanting to do shows from the Colts practice. Man, there's a ton going on. Trying to bring it all to you, though. Let's see. What else was I going to mention? Daggone it. Wrote it down, but I've got too many notes to catch. But it's been a great program today. Most importantly, great comments. Darren says he wishes we were on at 10 in Evansville because they're forced to listen to Kentucky Sports Radio. Well, you should tell them that. Don't be afraid to call. And wherever you are, if there's a sports station, call them and tell them they should carry us if they don't. Love to be on more stations. Colts, yeah, Chris Harris says, what are the Colts doing in practice? Well, hey, man, that's football. That is just football. And I'm telling you, that's when I talk about Indiana, prepare yourself. It happens every year. It's when you have those number of guys that go at it the way they do. And Indiana has talked about, Tom Allen talked on the show from Big Ten Media Days, how much they've tried to limit that full contact practice by using, they're not really shoulder pads and all that. They wear the under pads and they go at that and they're able to limit that somewhat, but you're just never going to eliminate it all the way. But But man, it was a great show today for me. I had a blast talking to Bob Kravitz, Zach Osterman as well. Tomorrow, of course, Kevin Brockway joins us, Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier, as we continue moving forward closer and closer to the football, basketball seasons for Indiana. As the rest of the Big Ten. What's happening? What's new? What's next? Who's the next commitment to drop? We'll find out. We're waiting on the big one from I'm dropping his name.
Caden Curry.
Caden Curry. That boy, you were right on it. Yeah. When is that happening?
Indiana in his top 5. I think he's wanting to announce in September, but I don't know that for a fact.
Oh, well, heck, that's a long ways off. That's going to be a heck of an upset for Indiana to get that, but we'll talk about that as we get closer. Hey, man, you guys have been awesome today. I can't thank you enough. Tons of great comments. Man, I hope I didn't knock myself off the air. But thank you so much. You guys have been great. And seeing where you all are from, all the different places, it's crazy. North Carolina, Indiana, Southern Indiana, Northern Indiana, Bloomington, Evansville, down in Kentucky. You guys are all over. We appreciate you guys so much. We're back tomorrow to do it again, and hope you're back with us. Until then, for Bob Kravitz, Zach Osterman, and John, the producer, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.